Hello, I'm Calvin Morris and I'm here today to review Doctor Who Series 8, Episode 9, Flatline. In this episode we're introduced to a brand new monster, an incredible shrinking TARDIS and Clara donning the role of the Doctor. So without any further ado, let's review Doctor Who. Ugh. While the intro's running, I'm going to go wash my mouth up with soap water and think about what I just did. Yes, Series 8, Episode 9, Flatline. So the episode starts off with an interesting tease. It's a man in a flat who's on the phone to what appears to be the emergency services, and he's obviously terrified. He's worked out what's going on. We don't know how, but there we are. But he's worked out what's going on, and he ends up being attacked by what is later described as the Boneless, and we see him stretched out on the wall, or in the wall, and that's how the episode starts. Not bad, because, you know, there's clearly something terrifying going on, and to see him stretched into the wall like that makes you think, okay, what's happening? And so it's really not a bad start. After the titles, the TARDIS obviously re-emerges back on Earth again. Is this entire series set? He can go anywhere in time and space, absolutely anywhere in time and space, and he goes to Bristol. Loving Jesus. I mean, seriously. Seriously. I know they put in money into this series. It's obvious by the production values that they are spending time and money making this series look the best they can possibly make it look. And they really are. They realise that it's an international commodity, but to have every single episode so far pretty much, aside from Orient Express episode which was set on an Earth type environment surrounded by humans, everything else has been an Earth type environment surrounded by humans. Okay, we had Time Heist, but that was one. You know, anywhere in the universe, anywhere. You can go anywhere. I don't know. But never mind about that. Okay, let's move on and talk about what's actually going on in this episode. The TARDIS lands, and from the inside of the TARDIS we can see that the doors have shrunk. That the TARDIS is actually made smaller. This plot device is quite interesting. I mean, you know, to have the TARDIS doors shrink down, and when you get outside the TARDIS is, you know, yay big, and it's it's okay. Let's go along with it. Clara goes off investigating. The Doctor goes back inside the TARDIS to try to work out what's going on, and there's an almighty bang, and it happens again. Only this time it's shrunk to the size of a flight control TARDIS, the toy that you can buy in the shops. Now, I have a couple of issues with the model that they built, basically because I am one of those nerds that can identify every single box and who built them, and you know, so when I see the model of the TARDIS and I'm looking at it going, I know what you did there. But the only odd thing that really sticks out that may stick out in people's minds is that for some reason when the TARDIS shrinks, there's this thick blue line around the light on the top. But you know, now that I see it, I always see it. I know that one of the windows is slightly more recessed than the others, and one of the signs is on the wonk, and stop! Okay, don't make me go into a rivet counter. I don't want to go there. So I didn't like the effect for when the Doctor opened the doors and was talking to Clara, mainly because the effect was filmed from the front and they pasted it onto the model, and it wasn't quite at the right perspective. When he opens the doors, it wasn't quite at the right perspective, and there was something off in the lighting. It wasn't a good effect. It really wasn't. There's probably other ways that they could have done it. Maybe having the model a bit more 3D. I don't know, but all I know is that it showed itself up as a visual effect, and it didn't look that good. I know that they had to move on with the effects, you know, they're up against time and all that. I don't know. I just, it's one of those effects that really stands out as a visual effect. Yeah, it just didn't look right. It didn't look real at all. Then we get into the episode and we see that people are being killed, and Clara's claims to be the Doctor when she meets Rigsy. Oh, I don't know what to say about that. I really don't. I know she's having fun, and there are people having fun in this episode, and it's an interesting take to have the Doctor out of action and to have the companion do all the doctory sort of stuff. But meeting Rigsy, and Rigsy's this sort of street sort of graffiti artist, and he's clearly, you know, he's clearly a nice guy generally. Actually, I prefer Rigsy to Danny Pink. I can actually find more things about Rigsy that I like, more characteristics. He's a better person, I think. You know, Danny seems to just mope a lot. That's the way I would describe Danny, as a general moper. I don't even know if that's a word, but it is now. So, we see PC Forrest get consumed by the boneless, and do you know what? It's a bloody nice effect. It actually is a really, really nice effect. To see the boneless, it looks almost like water, but you know it's not, and things are getting smudged and blurred, and 3D's being altered, and all the dimensions seem to be sort of wisping about, and then she gets pulled into the floor, and then you see her the image of her just sort of dispersing, and then you see obviously the nervous system on the wall, and all the stuff where all the boneless attacked the sofa for some reason. Sofa's apparently really offensive to them. But all that effect is sort of crunches down. I don't know of another effect that I can think of where that happens. I've never really seen that effect before. So I really like that. Things I didn't like. I didn't like the shrinking TARDIS, okay? And some people are gonna say, you know, they're just trying something original. They're not. They're not trying something original, okay? A shrinking TARDIS has happened before in Doctor Who. If you don't believe me, just go check out one of the most famous episodes of Doctor Who, Logopolis. Okay, it's Tom Baker's final episode as the Doctor before he regenerates into Peter Davison, and guess what happens in that episode? He is trapped inside a TARDIS because... Yeah, it's happened before, and it's also happened before that episode as well. If you'd like to go back and check on an episode called Time Meddler, yeah, it's not the first time this has happened. So, interesting, but it's been done. So, yeah, I like the idea that they're being attacked by two-dimensional creatures. There are issues with the definition, okay? I'll get around to that. But the fact that Clara's going around parading as the Doctor, she's using the psychic paper, she's using the sonic screwdriver, she's a little bit too good with the sonic screwdriver for my liking. I think that the sonic screwdriver is an advanced piece of tech that was designed by the Doctor, and to be fair, I don't think anybody should just be able to use it. I think, you know, it's okay if he sets it up for you and then hands you it and says, you know, just press that button there, because then you understand that that's all you have to do. For Clara to be able to use it to fix things, to open things, and she's a little bit too good with it. Not knowing how would have been nice, you know, having to hand it back to the Doctor for him to change it and then hand it back again might have been one of those moments. Yeah, so yeah, I like the idea of viewing the world the way that the boneless do, with the handprints and the footprints and the tyre tracks and stuff like that. That was kind of an interesting idea. I'm not sure why a 2D creature would come from underground. I'm really not sure why that would be. But yeah, it wasn't bad. But no, then the issues that I have with the definitions of the boneless. Okay, the Doctor says to Clara that we need 3D to survive. And this is why I take issue, is because we don't need 3D to survive, we need 4D. Okay, you, me and everybody, we're all in 4D. We're not in 3D, we're in 4D. Length, breadth, depth and time. Okay, that is how we exist. The Doctor, being a Time Lord, would know this. Okay, so I know that he's probably dumbing it down, but I think that the show needs to be a little bit more responsible, and not just for personal understanding, but in lots of ways. Like, for instance, I didn't like the fact that the TARDIS had landed on a railway track. I think that's kind of irresponsible to have people farting about by the side of a railway track just because of younger viewers. That's just my personal thing. I'm not trying to rag on it, but you know, be a little bit more responsible than that. You know, they could have landed in a car park, it wouldn't have made any difference. The whole thing where the Doctor moves the TARDIS himself with his hand, as he puts his hand out through the door and does the whole thing bit, and then he closes the doors because he's really happy with himself, and he does that little Uncle Fester jig. Ta, 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 ta. Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to lie, that did make me giggle. That really did. That got a good laugh out of me. And yeah, I mean, I can't rag on that at all. That really did. That was a fun little moment, and it was an interesting visual, seeing the TARDIS being dragged along like a hermit crab. I didn't like the fact that Riggsy was a little bit desperate to die. It seemed like he was going to be overly willing to commit suicide when he jumps on the train and starts pulling off, and you know, as they were going to ram the Boneless, and then Clara gets on board and does the whole thing with the hairband, and so he seemed a little bit eager to kill himself. I'm not sure if he's got issues there, but you know, maybe he needs to talk to somebody, you know. So contact the Samaritans or something and tell them about these little issues that you're having. TARDIS gets energy from the Boneless. Now, okay, the Boneless have been draining energy from the TARDIS, and obviously they've managed to work out how to work in 3D space, or 4D space, and they're able to make things flat, and they're also able to make flat things back again. And the Doctor comes up with a device that can make former, and I'm going to use their terms, 3D objects into 2D and then back into 3D. He's got this little device, and yet he can't work out how something that is already existing in 3D is getting smaller. I don't understand how it's getting smaller. I don't think anybody understands how the TARDIS is getting smaller. They say that he's leeching this dimension, but that doesn't explain it. The TARDIS exterior, once the TARDIS is formed and landed, it's a solid TARDIS. I mean, we could prove this. Just go look at the episode Father's Day, where the inside of the TARDIS disappears. You know, once the TARDIS external parameters have been established, it's solid. It's like a replicator from Star Trek. You know, once a cup has been made, it's been made. You know, that's how the chameleon circuit works. It forms a solid object, but we're dealing with semantics. Okay, these are little niggly things, I know. So yeah, I mean, I liked all the stuff in the train scene, the interaction where Clara asserts herself by saying, you know, I'm the only chance you've got to stay alive. All that sort of stuff. There was a lot of good moments in this episode, but they were being shot down by all the bad moments. All the bad moments were coming from silly decision making and silly thought process, but overall the episode moves along fairly well. So we get to the end of the episode, and the little box is turned back into the TARDIS, which is turned back into the big TARDIS. It lands, and with a massive kaboom, and the Boneless are trapped. The Doctor comes out, he takes the sonic screwdriver and he zaps them, and he banishes them back to wherever it was they came from. No, they don't explain any of it. Absolutely none of it. They don't explain how the TARDIS shrinks. They don't explain how or where the boneless came from. They don't explain exactly, we know that they're two-dimensional monsters, but they don't really explain anything much about them. They don't explain how they're only being chased after, that group of people are the only ones being chased after. They don't explain how they managed to breach the dimension barrier in the first place. They don't explain why it is that, it's localized in that area. They don't even explain where the locality of the dimension breach is. They don't explain how the Doctor is able to use the sonic screwdriver to send them back. This episode brings up more questions than it answers. By the time you finish watching this episode, you just are left with a whole list of questions. There's nothing really wrapped up in this episode. Now, the idea of the Doctor stepping out of the TARDIS, taking the sonic screwdriver and defeating the boneless with it, I don't like it. I don't like it. Using the TARDIS as a weapon, or the sonic screwdriver as a weapon, is a no-no in Doctor Who. Okay? The TARDIS gets you from A to B, that's what it does. The sonic screwdriver is used to unlock things. Okay? That's what it does. And I would take the line from the 50th anniversary episode of what are you going to do, assemble cabinets at them, as a pretty good idea as to how the sonic screwdriver works. So I don't like that. And we get the scene at the end then, when everything's resolved, so to speak. Nothing was resolved in this episode, absolutely nothing. We were left with more questions than we had answers to. It was just a mess of an end. But we get the scene where, Clara is talking to the Doctor, and, the Doctor says, you made a pretty good Doctor, and stuff like that. And then he said, you made a good Doctor, but being good had nothing to do with it. Yeah, it was one of those things. And then we get that little after scene then with Missy, who's looking at an iPad saying, oh, I chose you well, trying to draw up more intrigue for the character. I'm not intrigued. I'm not intrigued. I've got to say, I don't care about the character of Missy. I don't care at all. There's these little things that they stick on is just, they could have stuck anything on the end. This isn't like one of those sort of Marvel movies where they stick on a little after credit scene which has something related to another story, because they usually do it for fun. In here, this is supposed to be advancing some sort of intrigue or plot about Missy. I don't care. I don't care. So, what do I think of the episode overall? Well, okay, in fairness, the episode was a little bit of a runaround, and yeah, there were a lot of loose threads at the end, and the fun bits in this episode were really fun. The things that I thought were bad, I thought were really bad. It's just an average episode, really. For this season, anyway. It's not a good episode, it's not a bad episode. It's got an interesting monster, but the explanations and everything just fall apart. Maybe next time we'll get some sort of answer to what's going on with the boneless. I don't think we will, though. I think those monsters have come and gone, and we're just going to be left with all these things hanging in the air. Anyway, that's me. That's my review of Doctor Who, Series 8, Episode 9, Flatline. See you again.